Sup guys, I'm Kel, Red Zone MTG, and today I have my top 10 favorite cards of War of the Spark. Now before we get on with my actual top 10 list, I do have a couple caveats I want to say here. These are my favorite cards, not the best cards, and these are through a Commander player and an Oathbreaker player's perspective. So these cards are going to be, for the most part, good for Commander and Oathbreaker, and I'll kind of tell you what I like them for when we talk about them. And with that also said, I am not including stuff like Karn the Great Creator. He's a fantastic card with some really busted stuff with Mycosynth Lattice. I am not including stuff like Feather the Redeemed, because I do like it a lot, but it's been talked about to the high heavens and back already. And then I also want to give quick shoutouts to Niv Mizzet Reborn, Karn's Bastion, and Tezzeret Master of the Bridge. Also, all really cool and interesting cards, but they didn't make my list. Alright, now on with my list, and this is in no particular order. We're going to start off with Narset, Parter of the Veils. I think this card is both fantastic for Commander and for Oathbreaker. It is incredibly good as your Oathbreaker. It's very similar to Leovold, and as we all know, Leovold was banned in Commander, and this card has the potential to be banned in Oathbreaker. And it's also great for like legacy formats as well, you know, outside of Oathbreaker and Commander. What she is, she's a 3-drop, 2 blue, 1 of any legendary planeswalker Narset. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. That is backbreaking with wheel effects. In mono blue, like if you're running this as your Oathbreaker, you could still include stuff like Teferi's Puzzle Box and Windfall. And she also has a -2. You gotta look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal a non-creature, non-land, and then put it in your hand, and then you put the rest on the bottom in a random order. She has 5 loyalty, and the Japanese alternate art is absolutely gorgeous from Fumadori, one of my favorite Japanese artists. I just love everything about this card. It's kind of a little unfun at some points because of the, you know, can't draw more than 1 card each turn ability, and also the Magali Villeneuve art is exquisite as well. Next up we have Bolus's Citadel. This is in contention for one of the most broken cards of the set, especially for Commander. This is a 6-drop legendary artifact for 3 of any, 3 black. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, and then here's where it starts to get really busted. You may play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. You can just kind of storm off with this thing. This card is ridiculous. There's like a whole bunch of combos you can do with this. In Commander, if you just happen to have like 100 life, you can play your whole deck and just win the game. You can technically play 1 land from this card as well. And it also has a tap ability. You can tap it and sack 10 non-land permanents and each opponent loses 10 life. I mean, that's pretty cool, but you really want it for that second crazy storm ability where you just play whatever you want for the cost of life. This card is bonkers. I imagine you should get some foil copies of this because I think it'll go up in price over time if it's not already kind of expensive. Next up we have Command the Dread Horde. It's no secret that Liliana is my favorite character, so there's going to be some Liliana-y cards here. Not just because of flavor reasons, but also because they're really good cards. So this is a sorcery for 4 of any and 2 black. You can choose any number of target creature and or planeswalker cards in graveyards. And then Command the Dread Horde deals damage to you equal to the total converted mana cost of all of the cards, and you get to put them all onto the battlefield under your control. So if you have a ton of life, you can just get a ton of creatures and planeswalkers from any graveyards. But if you have ways to prevent damage to yourself, because this just deals damage to you, you can get them all for free. So this card is awesome. There's some really cool combo potential. I love Rise of the Dark Realms, and this reminds me a lot of Rise of the Dark Realms. This is going to be a Commander staple for sure. Next up we have another black card with Dread Horde Invasion. I love this card. You know, one of my favorite cards of all time is Bitter Blossom, and this is like not as good as Bitter Blossom, but it is still pretty sweet. It's an enchantment for only 2, 1 of any, 1 black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1. And what that means is you put a 1/1 counter on an army you control. If you don't control one, create a 0/0 black zombie army creature token first. So basically, you get an army if you don't have one, and then it just keeps getting bigger. So unlike Bitter Blossom, you don't get a new dude every single turn. But if you have ways to sacrifice that dude, then this card becomes fantastic. And then it also has this other ability. Whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn. I absolutely love this card. I really need a foil version. It's going straight into my mono black Liliana Commander deck. I have a lot of really sweet sack outlets in that deck, and I highly recommend you consider this card for any deck, you know, Commander or Oathbreaker, that wants to make use of sack outlets. Next up, I have Ilharg, the Raised Boar. This is a 6/6 legendary creature boar god for 3 of any and 2 red. Shout out to Princess Mononoke. He has trample, and he says whenever Ilharg the Raised Boar attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Then you return that creature to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. He's kind of like a sneak attack, except you get the dude back to your hand. This card is awesome. You can get some really sweet enter the battlefield effects with this. You know, you can put, a Crater Hoof Behemoth, Blightsteel Colossus, all what have you. This card is super, super sweet. I love big, flashy stuff like this. And I can definitely see this guy winning some games out of nowhere. Just be like, oops, Blightsteel Colossus, you die. And then he also has this other ability, when he dies or is put into exile, which is pretty sweet. You can put it into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. Next up, we have Rau Storm Conduit. This guy is incredibly good in multiple formats. He's excellent in Oathbreaker, excellent in Commander. He's got a ton of combo potential. He is a 4-drop, 2 of any, blue-red legendary planeswalker Rau with 4 loyalty. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, he deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. He has a +2 of Scrying 1, and he has a -2 of when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell, you may choose new targets for that copy. There are already tons of stuff online on how you can do like infinite combos with this, where you can fork something and then copy it and then fork and then copy it and then do a bunch of shenanigans like that. The alternate Japanese art is also really, really sweet. I just like this card a lot. Next up, we have Shiok Dreamrender. I think this card's actually fantastic in multiple formats. Commander, Oathbreaker, I don't know, people are talking about it in Modern. This is a legendary planeswalker Shiok for 1 of any, and then the hybrid blue-black twice. They have 5 loyalty. They say, spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause their controller to search their library. Man, this card hoses over so many things. It hoses over fetch lands, the demonic tutors. This card is awesome. And then it also has kind of this casual -1 of target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into the graveyard, and then you just exile each opponent's graveyard. This card is sweet. This card is so good, and like I said, multiplayer formats, it's good in like Modern. This card is awesome. I like it quite a bit. It is going directly into my Shiok Oathbreaker deck. Next up, I have Finale of Devastation. The whole Finale cycle is incredible, but this is my favorite one. I love big, splashy green stuff like this. This is a sorcery for 2 green and X, and then you get to search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, then you put it on the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, then creatures you control gain +X/+X and haste until end of turn. This is crazy. Imagine searching up a Crater Hoof Behemoth with this card, and then getting like the Crater Hoof trigger, and then the XX and haste trigger from this. This is nuts. This card is sweet, and it doesn't even have to be 10. You can like go search up just whatever you need. And it lets you search your graveyard, which is pretty crazy for a green spell. Definitely one of my favorite cards of the set. Definitely one that I'm going to be picking up multiple copies of, and I'm going to be trying to find some foil copies of this, because this is a primo card. Next up, I have Healy Sublimer Artificer. She is a really, really sweet 3-drop planeswalker. She has 5 loyalty. She has the 1 of any and then the hybrid is it symbol twice. She says, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Which is really sweet. It's kind of like a young pyromancer kind of thing, where every time you cast a non-creature spell, you just get a dude. And she also has a -2 of target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So, at bare minimum, you can turn your 1/1 servo into, like, I don't know, your best thing, another Blightsteel Colossus or whatever. And there's definitely some depth to this with some, copy shenanigans and everything. I love this card a lot. It's only a 3-drop with 5 loyalty. It's just a really, really cool card, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. And once again, the alternate art Japanese version is really, really cool looking as well. And finally, we have my favorite card of the set, Liliana Dread Horde General. Like I said, it's no secret that Liliana is my favorite character in Magic the Gathering, and her new Planeswalker card is absolutely sweet. I don't know if it's like the best card in the set, but it's definitely really good for multiple formats. Really good in Oathbreaker, really good in Commander, really good in probably Standard. It reminds me a lot of Elspeth Sun's Champion. She is a 6-drop, 4 of any, 2 black. She has 6 starting loyalty, which is a lot. She says, whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. That is awesome, just right there. Then she has a +1 of creating a 2/2 black zombie. She has a -4 of each player sacrifices 2 creatures. And if you end up sacrificing 2 creatures, you get to draw 2 cards, because whenever your creature you control dies, you get to draw a card. And then she has a -9 of each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type, then sacrifices the rest. So they get like 1 creature, and 1 land, and 1 artifact, and 1 planeswalker. If you get to the ultimate, it's almost game over, especially in a multiplayer format. I love this card, and the Japanese alternate art is exquisite. It is so good. Yoshitaka Amano is the classic Final Fantasy artist, and his art is so cool and iconic. I really, really want to get a copy of this. And there you guys have it. Those are my top 10 favorite cards from War of the Spark. I think this set is incredibly sweet. If it wasn't obvious, I really, really like the Japanese alternate art planeswalkers. I think they're really sweet, especially ones like, you know, Ashiok and obviously Liliana. And these are just my top 10. There's so many other really sweet stuff in the set. So if you guys like this video, stay tuned for some more Commander, Oathbreaker, and just general Magic the Gathering content. Please leave a like, comment, and or subscribe. I hate begging for this kind of crap, but it really helps, and I really need all the help that I can get for this channel. We are growing, but we can definitely grow bigger. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time for some more Magic the Gathering content.